And I am Z. Good morning, hello, good afternoon, good evening, whatever
All
time
of
it
the
is that you
above.
are listening to the soothing sounds of sipping tea with Nat and Z.
Thank you all for joining us this morning on our show.
Yes, this is what do they call that? ASMR.
Yes,
The people
yes,
that like to hear like the clicking of the keys and the
yes.
yes, or NPR.
NPR.
Hello.
Right.
Now today,
How are you
in
doing?
the life of sipping tea with Nat and Z, we come to bring you healing your inner child. That is the topic of the conversation
It
today.
is, y'all. It
And my
is.
heat just kicked in, so sorry if you hear a whoosh of wind.
It's all good. It's all good. What's going on your end?
um, one, I had to save my child's life since the last time we recorded. She actually almost choked on a french fry. Well, no, not actually almost. She did
Oh my
choke on a
goodness.
french fry, and I had to do the Heimlich um, maneuver for the first
Wow.
time probably in my entire life. So you could just imagine as a mother how
Yes.
frightening that is. And then I wanted to fuss at her for choking, like, because you're just angry, like, why would you choke? But then it's just like, she didn't mean to. So that was my little interesting um,
It's kind of a big
event.
interesting thing, not
Yeah,
necessarily
yeah,
a little
yeah,
interesting thing.
yeah.
So I'm glad she's okay. How
Yes,
you are doing? How are you doing? Because that's very traumatic.
I am doing well. I do have some PTSD, so now I'm like
Hmm.
a hawk with her when she's eating.
Right.
But you know,
Well, I'm glad you. At least you know how to do it.
yes, yes,
It
yes,
is confirmed skill set that you have accomplished.
yes, yes,
If we're
yes,
going to look at it like that,
yes.
so
So
I'm
yeah.
saying that's probably a good thing.
What about you?
That. Let's see. Uh, so nothing really terribly exciting. I did some vision boards for myself since last time we talked.
Oh, vision boarding.
Um, yes, I did some vision board when Jordan was here. Her and our goddaughter, they started their own. They were like, Nat, when are you going to do yours? In my other business, that's one of the things I do. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get around to it. So I finally did three. I did two extended, which is like one big one. And then I did one for my business,
Mm-hmm.
my decor business and lifestyle company. So they're sitting here in my office. I'm going to have them on my wall. I also got chosen as a Couples Choice Award for my decor business
Okay. Brr,
for
brr, brr, brr.
2023. Thank you. That was a surprise. Compared considering I only have but so many reviews, but it was the content across the 20 areas that they said were great or whatever. So I was very thankful for that in less than 6 months. So considering everything else going on, so I'm very happy about that and looking to see what else is coming up in the next couple weeks next year. I started booking folks already out to August. So I'm happy about that development. But yeah, that's pretty much about it.
Well, that's good. Good shit.
Thank you.
Good shit.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Um,
you. Thank you.
So during our key session, if you heard, we are doing an episode today that is circling around healing your inner child. So
Mm-hmm.
before we get into that, we want to get to the tea of the day. You already know. Drink tea. Don't drink tea. Like this segment. Don't like this segment. uh,
Y'all know the deal.
Right. Take it with
Y'all know what it
medication
is.
at your own discretion. And
Yes.
that's that. So, what is the tea on the table?
Well, the actual tea on the table is called the Inner Child Herbal Tisane. It is a seasonal loose leaf tea blend, and it's from the heart of the ritual, And they have a very funky little way of spelling heart with the HE lowercase and the ART uppercase. So it's the art of ritual, a little play on words. It's a special tea blend for those consciously walking the path of healing their inner child. This blend is lovingly created with native wildflowers and mountain herbs to soothe, comfort, nourish, promote new beginnings, restore faith, hope, trust, and innocence, and rebuild confidence. It is especially recommended for those who may have suffered childhood trauma, parental betrayal, or abuse at the hand of a parent figure. To help you, it has some elements to help calm down your sympathetic nervous system, help with stress and anxiety. So I thought it was very appropriate for today's
That
topic.
is very appropriate. I love it. I love it. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for that. Um,
Welcome.
so moving on to hot tea. I don't have a whole
Mm-hmm.
lot. I only had one thing, but then another thing came up. And the only reason why the other thing came up is because of the topic that we're talking about. So the first thing
Mm-hmm.
is I woke up and I think I said in the last episode, I don't do, I haven't done a, New Year's resolutions. I don't do that. I just am
Right.
asking
Yeah.
for the universe to bless me with whatever it is, and I will be open to receive it. And so, but there are things that I said I was going to change. Not no resolution, but things that I said I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
change. One of the things is
Mm-hmm.
just like my attention to social media. I feel like it has had a negative impact on me in terms of just my attention span. Um, and I challenge anyone to kind of think about where you were before social media actually came into the scene as heavily as it has, and look
Mm-hmm.
at how you look at, you watch movies now, like everything, they give us everything in quick spurts, right? Or they give us everything all at once. What I mean is,
No moderation.
um, yeah, no, like you get what do you call it? TV shows now. You can binge them all. You can just do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stuff. So, um, I've you know curated. I've decided not to um, just be so heavily on social media. So I say all that to say the thing that I'm talking about right now, just I happen to get on social media and I see that P Diddy is trending, and I'm like, what is P Diddy? Well, apparently, um, it is City Girls, Carisha, Young Miami. Um, she was interviewing um, Trina, and her during her interview, she indicated that she likes to get golden showers. And we all know that she is with P. Diddy, Sean Combs. Um, and that has been trending. So um, people were assuming that it was Puffy because that's who she's with. And um, it is not. Well, I'm not gonna say it's not. It could be whoever. She could be. It could be things that she's done prior to Diddy. It could be things that she does with Diddy. It could be things that she does on the side of Diddy. It could be a lot. It could be a lot. But that was trending, and I just wanted to say, because Black Twitter will always Black Twitter, I found that extremely hilarious. Because yes, P Diddy, PEE.
I saw I saw that and I was like, wait, what's going on? But oh, okay, I get it.
Yes. And so that was hilarious. And I just, got my fill on Twitter. Um and it I'll just say, like I said, Black Twitter is hilarious. It's so much so that now there's going to be a documentary on
What?
there's gonna be a documentary on Black Twitter, which I think is gonna be
Oh
I think
wow.
Hulu has decided that it's going to uh I think it's Hulu that's producing it. I think, I'm not sure. Don't quote me 100%. But yeah, so
Uh-huh.
but that's it. Like, as far as like real like trending topics. The other thing was, I don't know how many people know or even care about Blueface, some rapper, and his girlfriend, Krishan. I think I'm saying her name right. Even if you don't know about these people or care about these people,
Yeah,
you
they're a
will
trip.
be um, if you don't, even if you don't know about these people, you've seen them in your feed. If you have any gossip blog in your feed, you have seen these people come across your screen, and it's a very
Yeah,
toxic relationship. These kids, they are very
very.
young. They're in their early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I'm even bringing it up, because when we talk about inner child and healing your inner child, this young lady has a lot of inner healing that she needs to do. And well, she has a lot of healing of her inner child that she needs to do. She grew up in Baltimore, which, if you're from this area, you know that Baltimore is a very dire place to grow up. She grew
Mm-hmm.
up in a very abusive family. Her father, she said, used to
Mm.
take her mother out to the woods to beat her. Um,
Wow.
she she was homeless a lot during her childhood, so there is a lot of housing insecurity there, so much so that she would
Mm-hmm.
join extracurricular activities so she could be away from that environment as long as possible and forget that she
Mm.
didn't have a home to go back to. These are things that she has said herself. um you know, and so it is. While I don't um blame, I don't take all of the responsibility off of her, and you can tell there's some addiction issues there
Mm-hmm.
within her
That's very
family
apparent.
that are now, manifesting itself through her. She's an alcoholic, it's very clear. um
Mm-hmm.
and there was a clip that came on the social media where she was in an interview, and they literally dragged her out, and the guy, Blueface,
Whoa.
just sat there and let them do it. And um, I watched. So my husband had the video up. I watched the video, and the part that they don't show you, because this is what social media does, is they um so what social media does is they only show you a little bit um, of what is actually transpiring. If you
Right.
see it, though, you would see that they actually triggered her, and she asked them not to speak about a certain topic, and they just kept pressing the issue. And it was a woman there and a man there, and they just kept pressing her, and she got triggered, and her
Right.
her
And acted
man
out.
was triggering her, and then she acted out. She was drunk, and then they gave her alcohol. You know that this person is volatile, and
Wow.
you add alcohol to the situation and you give it to her, so now you're enabling her. And then when she acts out based on you triggering her and giving her alcohol, then you're like, you want to
Mm-hmm.
be the victim and be like, oh, see, this is what I'm saying, she doesn't know how to act. No, she told you, don't do that. I don't want to talk about that. Let's move on. And y'all just kept
Right.
pressing the issue. So then she got triggered.
Kept poking the bear.
And again, I feel like I'm not taking any accountability away from her, because there are some things that she needs to fully be accountable for. But
Mm-hmm.
you have to understand the type of trauma that this girl has faced that causes
A
her to be there.
lot.
And then, yes, you think if somebody's in an abusive relation, seeing abuse in their lives, that they would not get into an abusive relationship. But we all know
Mm-hmm.
that that is not the case, because if that was the case, then we wouldn't see abusive domestic violence situations still occur, right? Because if
Yeah.
that's the logic, that you see somebody getting beat, I'm not going to put myself in a situation, then you wouldn't put yourself in a situation, and domestic violence would be eradicated. But that's not the case.
Right.
So I feel like,
And her dad stole on her on Blueface.
mm-hmm,
When they met, when they, I guess the first time they met or
yeah,
whatever.
he hit her, which
When I saw that, yeah,
hit
he
him.
stole him. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my goodness.
But
It's the show and the aunt and the what they going back and forth for and what they said they should do, and then the mom is upset. It was.
it's
I
a
saw
lot.
that scene and I was like, what is going on?
But you look at the
Like, and then the
situation.
brother was in jail and then came out
Yeah.
and was instigating with the dad and her man and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and it was.
It's
It's just
dysfunction.
very, very dysfunctional.
It's dysfunction. Um, and this is something that I want to get into a little deeper when we do talk about healing the inner child. But I had this conversation with my husband last night, and we were talking about the state of affairs of the world today and who's really to
Mm-hmm.
blame, right? Because Gen Z and later millennials. So millennials that are on the cusp of the Z generation, right? They want to
Mm-hmm.
blame. They always say boomers, boomers, boomers. And I think even in that conversation, they throw Gen X in there because anybody before a millennium, they just think is a boomer, and that just shows you how the
Right.
education system fails them. Um,
So many
or how you
levels.
have all of this technology available to you, all of these abilities to search for the truth, and you just choose not to.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. Um,
Choices.
so I said, I fully believe that for the state of the world, the boomers are responsible for the state of the world, right?
I
In
agree.
terms of where we are
Accountability.
economically, where we are with the government, like
Mm-hmm.
climate issues, like that
All of
is
that.
specifically boomers' fault, right? The way that
Mm-hmm.
the this whole capitalistic nature is set up currently, it is boomers, right? They still have old fashioned thinking. They still want to stay in power, and they feel like there's nothing should change, right? Which we know times
Mm-hmm.
do change. However, I fully believe that Gen X is responsible for the way these kids think, behave, and act. Because if you think about it, Gen Z is the
Mm-hmm.
product of Gen X. We are the
Yep.
parents of these Gen Zers. So when we get upset by what we see, we can't
Yep.
be that upset because they are a product of us. We failed them. We created the participation generation. This is why these kids think that they should just, when they show up to work, you should like give them a
Be
pat on the
thankful.
back and be thankful that they're for their presence.
Yeah.
And that's not how
That's
it goes.
entitlement.
But there's a lot of entitlement. And yes, we can have a conversation about how the workforce is designed and how that needs to change and the work culture and the
Mm-hmm.
environment and how yes, Gen Z is helping to facilitate a new era with that's healthier for employees. Yes, we can have that
Yeah.
conversation, but
But,
there still is a
but,
sense of entitlement there that
there's too
these
much coddling that has
too
happened.
much, too much, and that is squarely on Gen X's shoulders. And I
Yeah.
think and this is a good way to go into break. I think this is a good segue into the break and into our topic because I feel the reason why Gen Z is the way that they are is because the Gen Xers did not heal their inner child and therefore
Ooh.
put it all into them.
Yeah.
Late
They gave them
millennials,
leeway.
right? Late millennials and Gen Z because early millennials still have some Gen X qualities, although they are distinct in
Mm-hmm.
and of themselves. But it is on us. We have failed them and failed to
Yeah.
properly prepare them
What do you
for the
think the
world.
disconnect is on
Well,
that?
we'll
It's
get it.
something we're going to get
Yeah, we'll
into,
get into that.
you know?
So, yeah, so this is a good time to take a break.
All right. And we'll be back for our tea time segment. And we're back.
So,
So,
yes. so,
get into it, girl.
yes.
Get into
So
it.
today's topic is about about healing the inner child. And we're going to get into what is the inner child, the qualities that you'll see in the inner child, how that gets
Mm-hmm.
triggered, what are the signs, how to heal it. But let's just get into what is the inner child. So your inner child
Mm-hmm.
is part of your subconscious that has been picking up on messages way before it was able to fully process what was going on mentally and emotionally, right? So this is at the
Mm-hmm.
time where you're in your formative years, right? Because your subconscious, as it's developing when you're younger, it doesn't. You're right. It does not have a
Mm-hmm.
full. It's not able to fully process everything because you're not
No,
mature
not
enough
at
to do
all.
that. Um,
Yeah.
so your inner child is the thing that holds your emotions, your memories, your beliefs from the past, but also your hopes and your dreams for the future. So there are a lot of psychological modules that talk about the term inner child as being childlike but not childish. And I agree. It's
Excuse me.
it's not childish. It's childlike. And those are two,
Like,
yes, distinct things. Um and the inner child is the little child of the past who craved attention, love, affirmation, approval, acceptance, and nurturing. So it's kind of like, think about it, you carry your childhood into adulthood. My husband
mm,
said something very he said something very profound to me yesterday and it hit me and it clicked. He said adulthood is just you reliving your childhood. And I was like, what? He's like, think about it. Adulthood is just you reliving your childhood as an adult. He said, because you've carried all of that traumatic shit with you. If
Mm-hmm.
you haven't, because like, think about it. We all don't just come to the understanding that therapy is necessary. It is a work in progress. So you're
Correct.
carrying all of that shit from your childhood, your beliefs, right? How you formed your beliefs, you know, the trauma, the joy, the hurt, the pain, whatever it is, the angst.
Mm.
You've carried that all now into your adulthood. So your adulthood is pretty much you just reliving your childhood in some capacity, whether you're living
Mm-hmm.
it through a trauma state or you're living it through a healed state. It's you
Right.
just living your childhood. And I was like,
Yeah.
damn, that does make a lot of sense. Um, so your inner child is your right brain. So it's the emotional side, it's the creative side. It is
Mm-hmm.
the aspects of our personality that is vulnerable and feeling oriented. It is the gut. It is the instinct of the gut. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it is said that Carl Jung is the first person, psychologist, to coin the term inner child. And we know that the right brain is largely formed by the experiences and the first 5 years of our life, right?
It's huge.
It's very
That's
huge.
huge.
And is part of our brain that is responsible for all of our emotions. And so that is
Mm.
why we call it the inner child. But
Or
now,
lack of
yeah,
emotion.
or lack of emotion, right? But now it's time to get into some of those qualities.
Yes, and when we talk about inner child, it may come to mind right away. As far as, some of those things, excuse me, that we think when children are talking, we're like, oh, that is so adorable. Or I, even as a nod to some of the Gen Xers and how we uplift some of the kids and how we fail them, the adorable things that we may think is adorable and they put them on social media, but we don't really think they're appropriate. But for some reason, they tap into some of these elements of trust that we children trust pretty much just unequivocally, because you're older than them and they lean into what an adult is saying, the liveliness, the wonder that they have, the innocence. They're so curious, and that whole why 50 times questions that some of us may be like, you know what, kid, you got 2 more seconds to ask me why. 5 more the joy that they have, the unadulterated joy they have just seeing certain things, the boldness. And I know for us, when, people say children speak the truth on certain things on so many levels, and they're just so innocent and just free with it. They have a lightness to them, and they just enjoy just being out and about. Their purity, their playfulness that we just love to see about children, and then their wonder. But you think of all those things, and how do those things get triggered?
Yeah, it's.
You know?
But you know what? Before we talk about how that stuff gets triggered, there's something that you talked about. There's two things that I wanted to point out that you talked about, that you just listed off, and
Mm-hmm.
tie it back into what you said earlier about social media and how we put our children on social media. Well, some of us
Mm.
do.
Some of
Yeah.
us.
There is, when it comes to the trust and the boldness, right?
Mm.
Children do trust unequivocally because they don't have any other, there's nothing else that tells them not to trust, right?
Not to
We
trust.
learn over the
To
course of
not
our lives
trust.
not to trust for a
Mm.
variety of reasons. But children
Trauma.
don't have those, they don't,
Ex-
especially in the first 5 or 6 years, they don't really have that, those experiences to be like, I don't trust that, I don't trust that, I don't trust that. And I
mm-hmm.
feel like when parents do these things where they trick their kids into stuff, or like that
Mm.
viral thing back when Jimmy Fallon was not Jimmy Fallon. What's the other one's name? Jimmy
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Kimmel
yeah. With the
with the
candy?
candy. It was like, teacher, like, say that you ate all the
Excuse me.
candy and see how your kids react. I feel
Right.
like that was cute and there was a time for that, but I feel like we've taken that and then just gone too far. Like
Yeah.
the I didn't find it funny when the parents were saying some kid and their mama wants to fight me, come put your shoes on. I felt like that
Tarkeisha,
was not,
no.
I just didn't like that.
Mm-mm.
um and I feel like now you're putting them in a situation where they can't trust you as their parent. Why would you want
Agreed.
that? And then that will then, when we talk about triggers, something is going to happen to them in their young adult life that is going to trigger them and make them not trust you
Yep.
when it's really imperative for them to
That they
trust you.
do.
So why would you do that, right? And I think that we don't understand that a lot of the things that we think are cute now are really going to
Mm.
set our children up for some fuck shit later.
Exactly. That whole little though you think you're cute thing. I've never understood that. But I was raised in a very strict household. That my parents delineated certain behaviors based on, oh, you may see that out in the street. That's not happening in
Right.
here. You know, you're too prime, as my mother would say, children were to be seen and not heard. Growing up in my house, you know, I had to wait until I was in my mid 30s to sit at the adult table because people still see you as a child. Like there are just so many things and environmental factors that fall into that
Mhm.
on how you see your children and how they're raised or how you put them on social media because you know. And I think when you said that about putting your kids on social media as adults that think it's cute, that is the prime example of the parents living out their inner childhood through
Absolutely.
their kids.
Absolutely. It's like you
You
want to be
know,
viral. You want to if there was a time for you to be viral, if you could have been
yes.
viral during your time and popular or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you would have been, but because you can't now you push that onto your child, right?
Yes.
So that right there is I understand like there's a double-edged sword there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then
Mm-hmm.
so then the boldness, like I children are honest again, they don't have a
Yes.
filter again because they haven't had the lived experiences to understand that there
Mm-hmm.
are times and this is one of the things that I find that I still find I'm in the middle on the middle with because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like we teach children to lie and then get mad when they lie, like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
um we that's what we do, right?
Yeah.
We teach them to lie and then tell them
That
not to
is
lie.
so true.
And because they're very honest. And then when they tell you something, you're like, well, you're not supposed to say that because it hurts somebody's feelings, or you're not supposed to say that.
Yes.
So now they've gotten to this point where they're like, okay, I when am I supposed to? Well, mommy said it's okay to lie, and so now I'm
Right.
gonna lie.
I'm gonna lie.
I'm
I'm gonna
not
tell
right. I'm
stories.
going to lie to not hurt your feelings because you tell me that lying is good to not hurt people. You're supposed to lie to not hurt people's feelings.
Right.
So the boldness thing, right? I feel like that is in line with the telling of the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing recently this little girl on Instagram. Her mother taped her. She was eating, and the little girl was like, when I grow up, I don't want to be fat. I don't want to be a fat adult when I grow up. I want to be a skinny adult. And so her mom was like, well, and she's eating her french fries, and she was like, well, who do you know that's a fat adult? And then she was like, the little girl looked, and she's like, well, there's one sitting right in front of me. She said that to her mother.
And then her mother posted it
And her mother,
because she thought it was
it
cute.
was live. So I think, once you do it live, it lives in perpetuity. Like, so her mom was like, oh, and then the camera cut off. So, but was it the truth? It might have been the truth.
It might have
You
been the
didn't see the
truth.
mother, so there's no way to really know. But I mean, you asked her a question and she told you the truth. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, this is one of
Yeah.
those things. It's just like, and now you're going to get mad at her and you're going to punish
Yep.
her for saying that. And now she's going to
Mm-hmm.
get into her head, oh, I'm not supposed to tell the truth to spare people's feelings. So now again, she's going to get older and then something's going to happen. And
Mm-hmm.
then we're going to get into these situations where, we're getting triggered and we're
Yep.
realizing it's based in something that happened when we were younger. So, how does your inner child get triggered? It's you. For some people, it gets triggered because because we all, if you think about it, even if it's small, there are we all carry unmet needs and pain from childhood, right? I was
Yeah.
talking again to my husband about this episode, and I was talking to him about a lot of the unmet needs and pain from my childhood that I see play out in my adulthood, right? So,
Mm.
in some cases, the wound to our inner child could be the result of trauma, abuse, or abandonment. In other
Yep.
cases, the source of pain can be more subtle, right? Um, And I think for most people, it's more subtle than very blatant in their face, like this is the trauma that caused it. So some of the
Right.
subtle things would be like experiencing unmet emotional needs, the illness of a parent or sibling, growing up in a broken family, um, or even a childhood friend moving away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the wounds from that can bubble up to the surface in very unexpected ways. And then they can cause havoc and extreme damage to our adult relationships. So
Mm.
when you hide from pain, we know that the pain does not evaporate. It doesn't disappear. We all know this.
Nope.
When you hide from the pain, it doesn't go away. So it surfaces and it shows up as distress, as anxiety, as depression, as violence, as
Mm.
aggression, as a whole bunch of other myriad of things. Um, and then it shows up in our personal relationships, whether it be friendships
Mm.
or intimate. But then it prevents you from meeting your own needs. Like you can't meet your own needs because you haven't healed your inner child, right?
Right.
And it can take time, but the results can make your life better. And when I say there are you get triggered, here are some examples really quick of you being triggered. We had this conversation, and I'll say not gonna say who we had a conversation with, but
Mm.
I'll put this in as an example. You have a situation where you move a lot, right?
Yeah.
You may transfer schools a lot, so you've never so that in that first transfer where you had these great friends that you've developed, you had a
Mm-hmm.
crew, you had a tribe, you had people that were yours, and then you had to leave abruptly or something happened and that situation changed and it hurt you to your
Mm-hmm.
core, right? And we're talking about young, let's say like 7 8, like it hurt you to your
That's
core.
impressionable
Yeah, or
age.
even younger than that, it hurt you
Yeah.
to your core. Now you have learned to I can't have that attachment anymore
Right.
because I don't like the feeling I felt when that attachment was taken away from me. So now I'm going to
Right.
detach and I'm not going to invest myself
Mm.
into any type of relationship moving forward.
So I won't get
We
hurt.
do this at a young age and then get to be 30, 40, and wonder why we don't have functioning, lasting relationships with people.
Mm. But think about
Why
that.
we ghost.
Yeah.
Ghosting is probably rooted in that person's inability to form friendships or relationships because of something that happened in their past. Whether it's a
Yeah.
family member dying or friend dying or moving away, it could be something like as simple as them moving away. And it's just like, that
But
hurt
that's
me.
huge.
Yeah.
Because that's totally reframing your whole life as you know it
Yes.
at that age. I know when I moved at 7, that was a pivotal time for me from where we where I grew up and where my life started in that way
Mm-hmm.
to certain memories
Right.
and subjected to, and it affected how I responded in school because I ended up getting bullied
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, I liked where I was. Now my parents moved me, and now I don't really have friends, and now I'm quiet. Then emotionally, I got the bullying thing, and and that affected me for years to come.
Mm-hmm.
And I became a very insulated, quiet, very shy, low self esteem child that did not talk.
Mm-hmm.
And that stemmed from when my parents moved me to when and it didn't, and I know you all know me as being like, now Natalie's a social butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
I be talking to everybody walking down the street. That is a complete antithesis of where I started, because I know it happened. That whole triggering thing started when my parents moved me in 2nd grade to this other new school, and then I got bullied, and I became so quiet, and they had to do stuff to try to bring me out of my shell,
Mm-hmm.
which didn't happen until I was in my 20s,
Mm-hmm.
and that happened when I was 7. So that, yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Like you don't if you really take a look and take a step back and think about all of the things that you get triggered by, you could probably tie it to some event that happened in your childhood or the way you
yeah,
move or maneuver or operate. For example, And it's funny, and I did not have this conversation with my husband because of the episode. We were watching
Mm-hmm.
something, and then we just started we were talking about the Krishan Blueface situation, and
Uh-huh.
talking about our childhood and things that happen in our childhood that really do cause us to move differently in our adulthood. I said to him, when I was growing up, there were three things, right,
Mm-hmm.
that I see still manifesting in my adulthood. One, we were very poor, right? I don't say we were very poor. We were poor, right? We had our grandparents, and our grandparents would substitute when they could, but you're with your parent most of the time, or your parents most of the
Right.
time. So my mother was not a rich woman by any measure, and my mom was young. Okay, she had us in her early 20s, so my mom was in her 30s, trying to raise two kids. Like, my mom died at
Mm-hmm.
44. I was in my first year of law school. My sister was in her first year of college. Do you understand? Like, our age,
Mm-hmm.
our big ass age with two kids that are already out on their own, that's a lot, right? So you understand, my mother was
Mm-hmm.
growing up while she was raising us. A lot of in her inner child shit never got resolved.
Right.
Um, and she did the best that she could. I give my mother grace because I don't know if I could have done it at her age. But it still has to be said that my we just didn't have. So there was housing insecurity for sure. We moved a lot in my youth. I moved we moved to an apartment, to a
Mm-hmm.
house, back to an apartment with a man that was very abusive to my mother. From the apartment, we moved in with my mother decided to move to Virginia and with this man, and I didn't want to go, so I moved in with my grandparents for a while. And then when that relationship had one of its other tumultuous situations, my mother came back. We lived in Philly in my grandparents' house in the same bed, a king size bed, all three of us, me, my sister, my mom. We
Mm-hmm.
slept in a room in the same bed, okay? And then we moved to another apartment, and then that, from when we moved there, then I left and went to college, and then they moved to another house. You understand? This is the cycle,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Yep.
And in that, I I moved. I had no problems with moving. I could pick up today and move and not be okay with it. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why am I okay with it? And like the fact that the fact that I've been in the place that I've been as long as I've been. And when I get antsy about being here that long, I realize it's because there's still parts of my inner child that are unhealed because of how many times we've moved, and
Right.
and how it's just like, oh, our producer's asking me, how do you not hoard? I think I am a low key hoarder when it comes.
Really?
Yes,
You think you're a low key
I'll
hoarder?
tell you on what level. So there's a housing insecurity there. There is
Fair point.
us being poor, not having money. There are a lot of things we just could not have, had to do without. Like, if I got a pair of name brand sneakers, those name brand sneakers had to last me for the full year. We're not getting 2 or 3, 4 or 5 pairs of sneakers. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and
Mm-hmm.
if I wanted what the kids I had to make it last, right? Um, Clothes, bitch, please, what clothes? Like, I don't even know what the hell I wore. Like, that's whole part of my brain has like shut down. I just
Mm-hmm.
know that it wasn't when I got to high school, my mom did try a little bit more. My grandparents did contribute because high school, of course, you don't want to be in, like, you know, in the shit. Like, you don't,
Right.
it's a big thing, appearance and all that. My hair, all that stuff. It's just a source of
You stay flat though.
but that is
Because
of my
of.
inner child. Like, I told my husband, I have
Exactly.
all these clothes in my closet. I don't have room for them anymore. And I'm like, I need to give them away. But it's like this thing, like, I don't like to deprive myself of anything because I
Mm-hmm.
felt I was so deprived of things as a youth. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? And whether that's true or not, and why that's true, that's my truth. So then what do? I buy shit that I don't need because I'm not going to deprive myself of something that I want. Because
Right.
I felt I was deprived of the things that I wanted my entire
Mm-hmm.
life. Well, my entire
Yeah.
childhood. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I wanted to be able to get my hair done every 2 weeks like the other girls in school, but I couldn't. So when I got to high school, I had to learn how to do it myself.
Right.
You understand what I'm
It,
saying?
it's crazy how it manifests.
Yes, and in ways
You
that you
know.
just don't. And food insecurity was big with us. So now, me and my sister talk about this all the time. I don't even like to eat the same thing more than once. Like, leftovers for
Mm-hmm.
me, I can't do it. And rooted in the fact that we would have to eat the same thing for a month straight because it was cheap and it was what my mother could afford.
Mm-hmm.
So you eating rice-a-roni every day, bitch. You eating rice-a-roni every day. That's why you better never even bring a box of rice-a-roni into my house. I will flip the fuck out. I'm sorry for cursing, but me and my sister say this all the time. I don't even want to look at it. If I look at it, I'm going to gag. You understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So there are still parts of my inner child that haven't fully been healed, but I'm aware that my
Right.
behavior and the way that I
Aware.
show up are absolutely a manifestation of what my experience. And when I say by it's my experience and my truth, because if my mother was here, she would be able to tell you something. She may tell you something different. My mother would say
Mm-hmm.
she didn't go without. I mean, she didn't have what she wanted, but she didn't go without. You know what I'm saying? My
Right.
sister's perspective on this might be totally different.
Yeah, that's true. And the viewpoint that you see it when you're acknowledging and realizing what those signs of being wounded are as an inner
Oh yeah,
child.
the signs. Yes,
You
yes.
know, because there's that frustration, you're prickly or irritated, you have childish outbursts. Because think about it, and I'm gonna pause here for a second. Do you ever think about like all these all these reality TV shows? These women or men, depending on if it's baddies or whatever that show is, they all kirk out as if they're having a tantrum with another adult, and that adult reacts. It's like you're watching something in kindergarten,
Mm-hmm.
unfold, and they're throwing stuff and yelling and screaming and literally having the whole tantrum where folks got to be dragged out, like we were talking about earlier, without realizing what triggered that, but that we just see the end part
Mm-hmm.
as the outburst. Think about how folks have a difficulty explaining their feelings, something called alexithymia. I don't think I said that correctly, but understand there's actually a word for that. And low self-esteem, which I also think also ties back to the reality shows. Think about how these ladies or females put themselves together to get attention, because most of them don't have no job, no way. So what are you doing? What are you doing to make yourself happy and proud about yourself, or being a contributing person, other than cussing people out and fighting to get that attention because you didn't get it when you were younger, or you don't know how to process your anger issues or anything to that effect? They're very immature. They're a harsh critic, people that are self-deprecating a lot.
Mm.
That's huge, and that is a way for them to get validation. I think an additional, I guess, attention
Mm-hmm.
that may not have happened when they were younger to be validated,
Mm-hmm.
or they kept hearing it when they were growing up. So now they still think that's the case to a point, but as they're an adult, they're still trying to, I guess, vie with what does that really look like. So then they put it out for other people to hear, so other people be like, no, it's not that bad,
Mm-hmm.
to make them feel better. Like, and that goes with self-sabotage, and that's tied into abandonment and commitment issues, and definitely setting boundaries, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and expressing your needs in relation to those
Yep.
boundaries that need to be set.
Yep.
And what does your, it takes a minute for these things to even be acknowledged, and recognizing these patterns in yourself, because a lot of folks wouldn't even connect the fact that, oh, this is why I act like this from when I was a kid,
Yep.
and now this is why I'm doing this as an
Yep.
adult. Because most people, think about it, most folks are on autopilot nowadays,
Yeah.
because of social media, so they don't take the time to invest or take some reflection time, and they just, think about, well, why do I do what I do? Because you're on autopilot and you're on social media, and you're like, well, this is what these people do to get attention.
Mm-hmm.
I'm that chick, I'm that bitch, I'm going to do what I want to do, because no one is going to come for me based on what happened to me years ago when
Mm-hmm.
I was a kid. So I'm a nuck if you buck before you nuck or you buck
Yep.
towards me.
I,
And really, it's amazing how it manifests, and that people are in such a zone because of social media. I don't know how people will ever acknowledge that that's what they're dealing with, or their behavior is such, because folks are addicted to social media and what they think is going to get them likes.
I'm about to shake the table because I'm about to say something that is going to really show you where we are and how we got here.
Mm-hmm.
Two sides of the same coin. One side is the BBL crew.
Ooh.
The other side is the Passport Bros. Okay? Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Passport Bros. The Passport Bros started out as one thing and has manifested itself into something that is very derogatory, in my opinion, to black women. These black men have been cohorting or whatever, gathering together and saying you need to get your passport to go to these other countries to get married to women who are more in line, in tune with the traditional values that we deserve. The traditional values of you staying home and you being subservient to the man and you bowing down and being submissive and blah 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 blah, all this bullshit, right? And those men, I realize, have unhealed inner children because they came from and they come from an era or they in their childhood they liked a girl who did not like them. They liked women who did not find them attractive, who did not deal with their bullshit, who did not, didn't have what it took to really get the girl that they really wanted for whatever reason. And so now they've turned that and have used that as a way to somehow, quote unquote, let us know that we're no longer worthy or wanted by them. And we're going to show you because we're going to go to these other countries and marry these other bitches. Go to these other countries and marry these bitches that we know only want you because most of these countries you're going to, if they have the mindset that you want, are not you're going to Thailand, you're going to Brazil.
I feel like 90 Day Fiance. Is that why that started?
Probably. You're going to these countries where these women are trying to get out of the environment that they're in. And so, they're going to entertain you and make you feel like a king because they're trying to get their asses here. Because let's be clear, even though America is a trash hole of the biggest trash hole, is a shit show.
It's the
ghetto.
Like the greatest trash hole.
Yes, it's the ghetto, right? The U.S. is the fucking ghetto. It's people that still want to get here because the American dream in other places is still alive and well, okay?
Yeah.
So let's be clear with that. But you don't have to denigrate a whole group of people to show, to get a woman, right? You don't have to downgrade me to tell, you don't have to even include me in the narrative. If you want to marry another woman, go ahead.
Knock yourself out.
But don't try to make it seem like black women are the reason why. We just don't put up with your shit. And now there's this one guy who is a Passport Bro leader who's actually getting run out of Brazil. They're after him. They have a bounty on his head because it's sex trafficking. I mean, it's sex tourism. And here's the thing. Let's be clear, black men who are Passport Bros, if you're listening, which I doubt you will because we're just a little too liberal for you. But the white folk been doing this. The whites been traveling, doing sex tourism. They just don't talk about it. Forever. They just don't talk about it. Y'all get in here and y'all just run your mouths.
It's been going on forever.
Because
think about when we went to Jamaica and the people that we saw, and they were like, "Ooh, let's go find some locals."
Right. And let's be clear.
These are other people on the trip, not our group.
Right.
These are conversations we heard when we were out and about.
Yes. And let's be clear. There's passport sisters too, because black women are valued in other parts of the world. There are men who want us.
Can I tell you? That's why people are moving overseas.
Yeah.
There's some black women that are like, you know what, I'm out. One of my sorority sisters, she got a divorce, picked up, moved her and her 2 kids to England.
Well, there's people that do it it can be done, but that's one thing. The other part, because I feel like I'm sticking on this too long and I want to move on. But the BBL crew. I feel like you're doing that because something happened in your childhood that made you feel like you weren't good enough. Like, I'm not knocking it. You want to get a tuck here, like,
let me tell you. I'm here for it.
Let me tell you, if I had...
For you, though.
Right,
for
me.
Not because of other people.
If I had the money, the patience, because there's patience involved in it, I would get a little tuck here, I mean, and there are some things that I plan on. I ain't telling y'all, but there are some
Yeah.
things that I do plan on doing for myself. A little this and that.
Yep.
It doesn't. They're not invasive surgeries, but there are some things I do plan on doing, especially with my hands. I got to figure out these crypt keeper things, but
You said-
but there are things,
Take
right?
it.
There are reasonable things that I think you should do. You
Of
want to get your
course,
eyes
there
done.
definitely
You know, you need a little Botox, a little
enhancements.
zhuzh here, a little zhuzh there. I don't knock it. A little tummy tuck, a little lipo. Do
Yeah,
you?
knock
But when
yourself
you're
out.
changing the whole aesthetic, you don't even look like who you were.
Looking like a pea. Looking like what's the name?
Looking like chicken feet, looking like an ant.
Chicken. K. Michelle.
Yes,
What she did with her BBL. What's her name?
there's a lot of people.
Junior Mafia. What's her
Little
name?
Kim.
Lil Kim.
There's a lot, and
Looking
Little Kim is
completely
definitely unhealed. Has definitely unhealed inner child issues.
Beautiful girl, young woman. Let me rephrase that. Beautiful woman when she started out. And now, wow.
Yeah, and these are two sides of the coin that shows you how it manifests in our adulthood, right? How we go from this, like, maybe you were teased and somebody called you ugly. Maybe you were always a super skinny chick. Like I was super skinny growing up, and people used to call me all kinds of things. And then of course that shit went out the window. And I don't hear nobody calling me skinny now. But
You thick.
right, but
Oh, one thing that I thought about, which is a direct correlation as I'm sitting here listening to you, with the BBL crew and the Passport Bros. Think about what the BBL, what you're striving for, is to look like the chicks in Brazil who have the bottoms and the bodies that the Passport Bros are going after. So that in turn bleeds out into some black women trying to attain or cinch certain things that they see the Passport Bros going after. Whether I think that's overtly confirmed or folks would never talk about it, but the correlation is there.
oh yeah.
You know, and that is like directly tied to now that my self-esteem as a woman has not been confirmed or validated, because now I see other men, black men, going towards something else that I don't have.
Right.
And then these men are going after that because what a chick that looked like that didn't want to have nothing to do with me. So now I'm going to go find someone else. And it's like, it's an impasse that people are going past each other for the same
For the same thing.
For the same exact thing.
And I mean, these men are saying that they want. We should have a whole episode on this shit, because some of this stuff I am, and the reason why I have to really limit my social media thing is because I have become addicted to TikTok. I am obsessed with TikTok. Okay, if I see one video, I'm on that thing for like an hour, just watching stuff like aesthetically.
It's so easy.
It is like the aesthetically pleasing kitchens. I love it.
Yes.
Oh, I live for those videos. Okay, but then I also live for like the other stuff, like But we have to, like, the deep dive that I did with the Passport Bro shit, I was like, whoa, this is a whole, like, culture. And I saw this one guy talking about it and, like, basically calling black women ghetto and trash and just loud and whatever. But this man is saying this in a whole house with 1970s wood paneling walls. I can't take you serious, sir.
Wait, what, sir?
I
see in the basement of his
I can't
house.
take you seriously, sir. With paintings or portraits on the wall, or paintings on the wall that clearly looks like you either live in your mama house, you live in your grandmama house, or somebody gave you that house. Sir, don't come to talk to me about nothing that I don't want to hear nothing. You won't go over there and get those Brazilian women who will take low value men like you, because that's what it is.
And there you go, low
if
value.
you are a high value man, there would be no need for you to diss women, period, because you know you can get whatever. It's giving broke. It's giving I have no game. Because if you had game, and let me tell you something, what I know to be the one and the two. If you got game, you could get whatever. I don't know a woman that there are men
Girl,
who are not handsome in the traditional sense, who will get bitches upon bitches upon bitches, and you like, yo, how did he do that?
Personality, y'all. It got game. I'm
Pete
telling you,
Davidson
people.
even though he's not of the brothers. Pete Davidson is a clear
Yo,
example where if you got the confidence, you can pull the bad bitches. So don't
facts,
if you
facts.
have it, you can get it. So I don't want to hear that. Like if you want to go over to other countries, then that's what you do. But don't try to
Right.
make it seem like it's because of us, because it's not. But anyway,
Just because you want to get away with certain shit that other folks won't let you get away
hello,
with.
good morning, and that's why you need to do what the
Mm,
work and heal your
mm,
inner child so that you don't spill this bullshit onto other people. So,
right.
what is inner child work? It is recognizing, right, and healing your childhood traumas, whatever they may be, right? If you've never
Mm-hmm.
got over the loss of your mother or your father, or I mean, let's be clear. The inner city is rough. These kids are watching
Mm,
their counterparts get murdered at
all the
13 and
time.
14. Do you know what kind of trauma that is giving them, and what the frick they're gonna
Man, I'm
happen when they
telling
get to be
you.
adults? It's scary, but
It's very scary. I
very,
see it when I used to work at a psychiatric hospital.
it's
Like the impression,
yes.
those violence, and that was between the ages of 3 and 9 when these children had traumatic impact. And you see it,
You know what it's
how it
gonna look like,
manifests,
right?
and you know that's where it
You,
started, and you know that.
girl, bless. Um, so doing the work it requires you to recognize that your behaviors as an adult stem from your childhood experiences, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you do the inner child work, you have to focus on addressing your unmet needs, unmet needs. You know what that reminds me of? I just saw a clip of this kid from the University of Indiana. It's an old clip, but it was a Wheel of
uh,
Fortune clip, and he was spinning a wheel, and the phrase was mythological hero Achilles, right?
uh-huh.
And he got all of the letters. Okay, Brett got all of the letters, and
Uh-huh.
there were no more letters to be got. It was there. All you had to do was read it. My man said mythological hero. What did he say? Akaleches or something. And they were
Oh
like, no, we can't give that to you. And I'm like, bruh, it was right there. So I say that to say, I said
no! Oh no!
unmet needs by reparenting ourselves. And that is key. You have to reparent
Yeah.
yourself, meaning you have to be the parent for that inner child, and you have to parent that inner child the way you believe you should have been parented at that time.
So then, question
Mm-hmm.
for that. So if you are the inner child and all you know is now you're an adult, a child in an adult's body by virtue of age,
Mm-hmm.
what elements have you now learned or picked up on or thought you should pick up on so that you now have the toolkit to reparent yourself? If you have not seen it done effectively, and that's why you're in the situation you're in now.
That's a good question. There,
How do
I mean, the
you
only
get
thing
that
is,
skill set to do
only
that?
thing I can say is therapy. But let's say you don't have the means, because
Mm-hmm.
somebody said, they like the fact that we talk about therapy a lot. But what if you don't have the means to
Means,
go to therapy? Because they have, I feel like there is a war on mental health in the negative sense, meaning like
yeah.
especially with black people, that they are not allowing us to have enough access to people of color to assist us with the
Mm,
traumas that only people of color are going to
well,
understand,
no.
right?
Right.
Um, because I talked about this before. I had a white therapist, a white male therapist. He was gay. He could only take me so far, and he could only
Yep.
help me with the things that weren't race related, right? The feelings of
Mm-hmm.
like shame and regret and some grief, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those themes for me weren't rooted in race. But then when there were parts that were rooted in race, there was nothing that he could do for me because he couldn't understand
Right.
where I was coming from, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there again, you can therapize, is that a word?
Theorize.
No, therapize, like therapize
Therapize.
yourself.
Today it is. Today therapize. Today's word is
Therapize.
therapize.
You can therapize yourself. I would say try to go on Amazon and find books about healing the inner child
Mm-hmm.
and just commit to doing the work. Like And I think the first thing is understanding that there is an issue there that needs to be addressed.
Right.
I would say I would say, okay,
Journal.
yeah, if you, so, okay, this is very good. Okay, so you need to talk to yourself non-judgmentally. You need to become aware of the wounds, right? You need to
Mm-hmm.
actively engaging in repairing the hurt that your inner child expresses, okay? Because it may be something you think you're not hurt by now, but you are, because your inner child is still like
Yeah.
feeling triggered by those situations. You need to connect to the inner little boy or girl, and then use that connection to understand what powers our anxiety and behavior patterns as adults, right? So you
Right.
could do this by acknowledging and recognizing and accept things that cause pain in your childhood. Listen to yourself. Listen to your inner child. What does it need? When
Mm-hmm.
things happen, how are you feeling? Do you feel angry? Do you feel rejected? Do you feel vulnerable? Do you feel guilty? Do you feel anxious? Um, what situations in your adult life triggered these same feelings, right? So
Right.
so when you open the door to your inner child and you look at an experience, acknowledge that experience, and then say, how is this experiencing making me feel? How does this experience make me feel? And once you've done that, then say, okay, in my adult life, when something like this pops up, how does it make me
Mm-hmm.
feel? And is this the trigger?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the trigger? And then work through that trigger. Have an open dialogue. Maybe write a letter to yourself as a child. Ask
Mm-hmm.
the inner child, how do you feel? How would you like for me to support you in this moment? I know this all
Mm-hmm.
sounds like really hokey, hippie, but it helps.
I don't think it's hokey at all. I think
But
it's
some
great.
people
It's a
will. Oh,
check-in.
yes, you have to
Yeah.
check in with yourself. Um, how can I make you feel safe and secure in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
Meditate, we repress a lot of our feelings, uncomfortable emotions. But if you meditate and you sit in it and you say, this is what's happening to me,
Mm-hmm.
I acknowledge it, I'm going to sit in it for this amount of time, and then I have to get up and I have to move on, right? And you have to tell your
Mm-hmm.
inner child it is okay to express these emotions. It's okay to feel the feels, but we need to now figure out how to heal these wounds,
Right.
right?
And encourage that it's okay to.
Right.
That's a huge thing because the things that we praise children for, as far as keeping a tough upper lip and not expressing themselves, or boys don't cry, or you're too this and that, and those things all are added to that bucket of the inner child being repressed.
Right. I would say journal, and you can do all of these
Mm-hmm.
in your journal, right? You can talk about your
Journaling is
feelings.
great.
It
If you,
is.
yeah,
Um,
journaling is
you
great.
can recreate childhood experiences for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there was a vacation that you went on with your parents that made you feel like the happiest in the world. Maybe take that trip again with yourself or your family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, um, don't expect, the biggest thing I think is like, don't expect the people that hurt you to be responsible for healing you.
That is a good one. Say that one again.
Do not expect the people that hurt you to be responsible for healing you. You have to do
That
that yourself, right? So if
is
you feel like
huge.
your parents have done something, and most parents have, because we're human,
Yeah.
we've done
Mm-hmm.
something that has hurt or harmed our child. And we may not want to acknowledge it, but it is the truth. And you know your child.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter came to me the other day and told me, asked me, she's like, Mommy, what makes you happy? What makes you sad? I was like, this is very insightful for a 4, almost 5-year old. And I talked to her and I told her, and I was like, well, what makes you happy and what makes you sad? And she told me some of the things that make her sad. And they were in direct, of course, they were in direct relation to when she does something wrong. But she was just like, but I realized now I have to rethink my way of addressing those situations
Mm-hmm.
to give her a better, when I say a better experience, meaning her to understand that there's no need to be sad about this. You just have to do these things because of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Um, and it's to understand that, we like to blame. We always like to place blame. And like I said,
It's always.
I had to learn to give my mom a lot of grace, because I'm telling you, I had a lot of anger feelings towards my mom for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to realize I had to let all that go. I had to give my mother a lot of grace and a lot of empathy, because when I sat there and I really thought about the things that she went through and the things that she had to go through at such a young age, I'm like, no, Zarifa, you got to let that go.
Right.
And she did the best that she could with what she had. And that's just that. You know what I mean? And there's nothing else to say about that.
Right.
And know that while it's not your fault that it happened to you, it is your responsibility to walk the path of healing if you choose to. And I think that is a good place to go ahead and go into break and come back with the last sip of tea with me, your Hood Dalai Lama. And we are back. This is the last sip of tea with your Hood Dalai Lama. I am your Hood Dalai Lama. Today's quote is, inner child work helps us get to the root of the problem, the core wounding, instead of putting a Band-Aid over the pain and hoping it gets better. And that is attributed to Robert Jackman. And that is the last sip of tea with your Hood Dalai Lama.
Alrighty. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us this week on Sippin' Tea with Nat and Z. As you know, you can follow us on Instagram at sippintea_NatandZ_pod and on Facebook at Sippin' Tea Nat and Z to get information on our upcoming podcast topics, guests, and news. And thanks for listening, and catch up on our next episode where we go into ego tripping. You guys have a good week. Try to do some inner child work if you can.
Okay.